What's going on, everybody?
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday.
Yes.
What's up? What's up?
Tuesday, indeed.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. What's up, everybody in the chat? DG and Early Ganging.
Love the early fan that stops in. It's amazing catching those typos. Appreciate y'all. xCloud release dat.
xCloud released that. Yeah, we've got some xCloud news. Cheers to the SIP redemptions in the chat. We've got some xCloud news. We're going to be talking about Stardew Valley real quick because I know we ended last episode on that. Going through some Avengers news. The Spiderman drama has been blowing up on Twitter. PlayStation stuff and a little bit about GTA 5 today. So get locked in, get loaded. We are ready to go.
So let us begin, as Kaisa mentioned, that the Stardew Valley Collector's Edition is going to be eco-friendly.
This is more of just like fun, a little bit of fun news for you if you need some good news, you know, with everything going on. Stardew Valley is finally getting a physical release on Switch and PC to mark the occasion. There's a new Collector's Edition jam-packed with some extra goodies in there.
So developer Eric Barone announced that he's collaborating with Fangamer on the physical release, which includes a standard and collector's edition. Now, we don't usually spring for premium editions of games, but this actually might be an exception.
So the Stardew Valley Collector's Edition for Switch and PC includes a gorgeous 6-piece standee made from responsibly sourced birch and cherry wood, an eco-friendly wooden lapel pin, 14-page Junimo comic, a deed to your farm, a Collector's Edition box, a cleaning cloth, and a limited time poster for pre-orders made before August 15th.
And it was said on the Collector's Edition product page, it said this, it said, the woods used for the standee and lapel pen are never harvested faster than they grow, preserving the supply and original character of the woodlands. And it also goes on to say that the physical release also uses quote-unquote minimal plastic.
You can pre-order the bundle or standalone game for $69 on Switch or $64 on PC, and the orders start shipping November 6th, which is kind of in a while. But for the price, the Collector's Edition seems like a good value for fans of the game with some shelf space to fill.
So this is really cool. And take note that the Switch and PC physical editions come with the patch all the way up to 1.4, which is the most updated version of the game. And 1.4 launched last November, included a massive list of additions like a new spouse event. And update 1.5 doesn't yet have a firm release date, but it is looking to be like a big one. We did talk about this a few weeks ago by saying that they will be adding a significant piece of new end-game content.
And I'm not sure if this is a US-only edition. I hope not. But I also really wanted to spotlight this because it's so on brand. Like, it's sustainably sourced. They're not trying to use as much plastic. I mean, if you're still shipping it and like selling it in an plastic Nintendo case, there's still plastic there. It's not totally green. But I thought it was a very cool way to, you know, tie in the real game, you know, with real life. And really encapsulate the wholesome, sustainable, you know, Stardew Valley brand that they've got going for them.
Yeah, it really does stick that through line that we've known from this creator and from what Stardew Valley has always kind of represented. It is a place within gaming that I will say has not wavered on being this wholesome, truthful, transparent developer as well as game experience that overall we should all take note of how this is being handled and hope that we would see this kind of become a ripple effect, maybe one day reaching those bigger studios.
I hope so too. And I'm just looking at this next headline that we've got, and we've primed you with some wholesome news, and we've got some not so wholesome news coming up next as Blizzard workers share salaries in revolt over wage disparities.
Yeah, so I don't think this comes of a surprise to anyone. As we know, Activision Blizzard can be a little bit on the side of maybe you shouldn't do things like this. And now we're starting to see some of that response happen from the people working there.
We are. So I'm glad employees are standing up for themselves, as employees at Blizzard Entertainment, a division of Activision Blizzard Inc., began circulating a spreadsheet on Friday to anonymously share salaries and recent pay increases, the latest example of rising tension in the video game industry over wage disparities and executive compensation. So I've just got to say, first of all, I think you should share your wages with your coworkers. Yes. Being quiet about wages just encourages, wage disparity, just encourages you to be underpaid, because if you don't have anyone to compare yourself to, then you can't negotiate as strongly for yourself. So I think it's good that they're doing this. I'm sad that they had to do this.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately, you remain quiet for too long, and then you eventually have to take matters into your own hands. And this is what's happening here, as Blizzard, which is based out of Irvine, California, we know makes popular games including Diablo and World of Warcraft. In 2019, after an internal survey revealed that more than half of Blizzard workers were unhappy with their compensation, the company told its staff that it would perform a study to ensure fair pay. And according to people familiar with this situation, Blizzard implemented the results of the study last month, which led to an outcry on the company's internal Slack messaging boards.
One employee then created a spreadsheet and encouraged staff to share their compensation information. The anonymous document, reviewed by Bloomberg News, contains dozens of purported Blizzard salaries and pay bumps. Most of the raises are below 10%, significantly less than Blizzard employees said they expected following the study.
So Activision Blizzard's spokeswoman, Jessica Taylor, said this: "Our goal has always been to ensure that we compensate our employees fairly and competitively. We are constantly reviewing compensation philosophies to better recognize the talent of our highest performers and keep us competitive in the industry, all with the aim of rewarding and investing more in top employees."
This year, Blizzard top performers received a salary increase that was 20% more than in prior years, and more people got promotions, Taylor added. Our overall salary investment is consistent with prior years, she also said, which makes it sound really good. But, in 2019, more than half of Blizzard workers were unhappy with their compensation. So if over half of people are unhappy, you've got to do a lot of work to fix that.
Yeah, exactly. Because the wage disparity has become this hot button issue in the $150 billion video game industry, as there are calls for unionization, and this continues to grow for these calls. A pro-labor group recently slammed Activision Blizzard for the pay of Chief Executive Officer Bobby Kotick. His 2019 compensation was worth $40 million at the end of the year. That is according to the data compiled by Bloomberg. And the package has grown since then as the company's stock has soared.
Last year, the company also paid $15 million in stock awards and a sign-on bonus to incoming Chief Financial Officer Dennis Durkin. In the anonymous spreadsheet, one employee listed the CEO's annual salary, bonus, and stock award.
Yeah, so we can read more about this. There is an article that you can find that will break down how this executive was greeted with a $40 million welcome package. And I think all of us can agree, maybe that's a bit much and not the amount it should be.
So in internal messages reviewed by Bloomberg News, Blizzard employees said they were struggling to make ends meet while watching Activision Blizzard revenue grow year after year. Some producers and engineers at Blizzard can make well over $100,000 a year, but others, such as video game testers and customer service representatives, are often paid minimum wage or close to it. And as we know, you cannot afford a one-bedroom apartment anywhere in the United States living on minimum wage.
No, and I will add to my own personal experience of working at Electronic Arts, which was a little bit above minimum wage, but the rates that we knew the other individuals were getting paid as opposed to the game testers was very unsettling when we learned about it, and it just made us feel like we were being overworked, underpaid, and it was a very strict environment that no one seemed happy.
It's just so awful.
Yeah, because, Blizzard Entertainment has traditionally remained autonomous for its parent company. But in recent years, Activision's corporate office has pushed the game development studio to cut costs. Last year, the company eliminated hundreds of jobs and asked some of the remaining staff to take on the responsibilities of those who were let go. And that extra work did not come with more pay. According to the people familiar with the company, and these individuals asked not to be identified as they were discussing this sensitive private information.
One veteran Blizzard employee told Bloomberg News they received a raise of less than 50 cents an hour. They are making less now than they did almost a decade ago because they are working fewer overtime hours than they did back then. Several former Blizzard employees said they only received significant pay increases after leaving for other companies, such as nearby rival Riot Games in LA.
So let's just take a moment and look back on in 2018, there were messages on an internal Blizzard communication channel, which was reviewed by Bloomberg. Employees talked about the money-saving measures that they've taken to remain with the company. One employee wrote on this message board that they had to skip meals to pay rent and that they used the company's free coffee as an appetite suppressant. Another one said that they would only eat oatmeal and bail on team lunches because they couldn't afford to buy food at the company cafeteria.
A third said they and their partner stopped talking about having kids because they knew they wouldn't be able to afford it. That contrasted with pictures they saw of more senior Blizzard employees enjoying vacations to Disneyland with their families.
So disgusting.
That is revolting. That is so horrible. It's like, I think with any job, if you work full time, you should be able to buy food. You should be able, a living wage should be a living wage where you can actually live on. But let's say also we're talking about Blizzard. We're talking about a massive company with massive amounts in sales. You can see the CEO, and the really high level executives have lots and lots of money and are making a ton of money. And just because you're not an engineer doesn't mean you need to skip meals. Like it's like really awful, how they're treating it seems like the bulk of their workers.
Yeah, I read this information. I was thinking about this earlier, and someone just said it in the chat. Guff actually said it was, I think one of the worst decisions made was Blizzard allowing themselves to be acquired by Activision. I think there was a sense of Blizzard in the gaming industry as being this like authentic place, and it was a place by gamers, for gamers. And for whatever reason, they needed that infrastructure that Activision offered because they had all this money. And we know that Activision was buying up all these places. The success of Call of Duty, I will say this, Call of Duty shifted drastically when Activision got more hands-on with how that game was supposed to be, played and how it was supposed to be distributed. And then now to see what's happened to Blizzard and to see that even more employees are now speaking out, it's just, I think this just goes back to that whole feeling I've always had about the greed from Activision, is I'd love to see these companies like Bungie did, like go, no, we're not doing this anymore. We're not going to renew our contracts. We're going to break away and get away from Activision. And I would love to just see Activision become that outcast in the gaming industry that is just this greedy place that no one wants to work with anymore.
Right. I think there is also, a responsibility to like us and to everyone watching to be like, hey, this company's not cool, as a very understated way of saying it. And, really, really voicing that, making it clear, like, this isn't okay. Like, I don't feel comfortable buying your games. Like, it's up to you whether you still want to keep, spending money on this company. But I think that there is a responsibility to have pushback. It's also disappointing that a lot of these employees could only get pay raises after switching jobs, which a lot of millennials are made fun of. They're like, millennials switch jobs every 2 years. And it's because it's so hard to get a raise. As we just talked about, if your raise is only 50 cents an hour and there's no room for growth at your company, you have to, apply somewhere else for higher pay there. And that's your way to get a raise. Yeah.
When you grow up in a reality where the cost of living is rising and the hourly wage is stagnant, you begin to go, well, I have to go where my wages match my cost of living. And as you said, and as we know, and it's been studied, and it is hardcore data now that we all agree upon, there's nowhere in this country specifically you can afford to live in a one bedroom on a minimum wage job. So this whole dialogue on, when you see a company like Activision Blizzard making all of this money and giving one person, this Bobby Kotick, who I've got words for in another conversation, he is not an individual I like at all. I think we should speak out about people who run their entities with greed and with money first as being the only focus. And we should lift up the companies that love their employees, that want their employees to succeed and want them to continue to grow and to bring them up along with them. But this is just one of those moments where I look at Activision Blizzard and I just see where it's just like, when does it become enough? You know, when does it just get to that point where these individuals go, I'm done until I have a livable wage? What are they going to do if all of those people just walk out and they go, I can't do this anymore?
Right. Waffle says, just BS happens all over the corporate landscape. It is a never-ending fight for labor rights, basically, seems to be the moral of the story, which is not very encouraging. I've also noticed that at least from my personal experience, when I'm paid less, I'm also treated worse. And the more I spend time, especially in this career, the more when I, negotiate higher pay, I'm actually treated better because I think I'm seen as more valued. Like, we're paying this person a lot of money, they must know what they're doing. Yeah. Versus if I'm not paid a lot, or if I do something for free, usually I'm seen as, very disposable. I'm seen as I don't bring a lot of value to the company. That seems like it's kind of reflected in this article where, these people were not treated well, and it seems like they were they're not enjoying their jobs. It seems like, they're just kind of like cogs in the wheel here instead of being like valued for what they can really bring to the table. And I think it makes for a less happy work environment. And personally, I'm less productive if I'm not like happy with whatever job I have. And that also brings down my quality of work as well. So I think it's good to have happy employees, like not just for not just for whatever surveys, like if you just care about the bottom line. I think that happy employees, I gotta find an article for this to back up what I'm saying.
There is actually some individuals who treat their employees as the priority. Richard Bronson, who runs Virgin, their thing are employees first. And he tells every shareholder this. He basically lays it down. He says, everything about this place is only possible because of our workers. And the people who work there feel that is true. The same goes for Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban's another one of those individuals who's continuing to pay people that worked at his facilities during COVID while there's no NBA going on, because he's like, these people shouldn't suffer. There are mindsets that we can find where these people do actually apply the workers first because we are nothing without them. It's the same as like, how many times have you worked at a place that uses the dialogue family and it almost turns out to be like it's a worse experience and they don't actually treat you like a family, right?
It's like your family because you can work for free or something, not the other way around.
It's almost like that's a curse the moment you say that, which is why when I say, like DGN family, I mean that because I'm so tired of working at places that use that dialogue and they don't actually live up to it. Like, if we're going to say family, we're going to mean it. That means we got to work with each other. We got to find how to make each other happy. We got to do these things. And when you're making billions of dollars, there's no excuse. That is the part for me that I cannot stop. There is no excuse when you have that amount of money for people to be skipping out on meals, to not be able to considering having children, to going through all this stuff of suffering. It's BS. It is just hands down BS. And there should be some system in place to regulate this and get rid of it.
I think absolutely, and I'm really glad
I'm passionate about this stuff.
This is the place to do it.
Yeah. Oh my god.
DGN got some spicy topics. I'm glad that the employees are taking this into their own hands. With this spreadsheet, I think more and more people are realizing that it's good to talk. You're not in competition with your coworkers. Just because you got a promotion doesn't mean someone else won't necessarily. And they're taking these matters in their own hands. I've also heard a bit about like the Blind app, which is an anonymous app for like verified employees at companies to like anonymously, share like working conditions, especially in Silicon Valley. And I think the rise of those things are great, because if you don't talk to those around you, you don't know how much money they're making more than you, how much maybe you really deserve, and what you can do about it. And so I hope that, we're going to keep following the story, and I hope that we're going to have some good news to bring to you more in the future, because this is just really awful to read.
Yeah, I want to believe in the full extent of the word revolt, which is revolution, and that we see a revolution actually take place at a place like Activision Blizzard, and that they do have to respond to this, and that their workers put their feet down. I know it's a tough time period to be doing that in because of what we're going through and the fact that we still can't get this unemployment situation ironed out. But there is something to be said about people saying, no more. I'm done being treated this way. We're connected enough to be like, do you like being treated this way? Do you believe that this is fair? And we're all like, no, we shouldn't be treated this way. This has got to stop. So we will definitely be continuing to report on what is happening within Blizzard, and I am hopeful to see some change.
Me too. We're rooting for you, Blizzard employees. You know,
Yes.
we hope to hear good news soon. We hope that this applies a lot of pressure to make changes for the future.
Absolutely.
But our next topic is about the PlayStation 5, answering your questions on compatible PS4 peripherals and accessories. Because as you know, the PlayStation 5 gets closer and closer to release, some people are wondering, but can I use my PS4 controllers with it? And, you know, are these other things compatible?
Which is really interesting because there was a dialogue that I forget which was the individual. It wasn't Cerny, it was someone else within Sony that was addressing when we design something for the PlayStation 5, our focus isn't to continue the consumer base from the PlayStation 4, but is to focus solely on the PlayStation 5. So this is to me, this is one of those interesting moments of being like, it seems like people are upset at the fact that the transition to the next gen will be a drastic change than what we've seen in previous time periods, and that's specifically related to the hardware.
It is. So we're wondering which existing PS4 peripherals and accessories will work on the PlayStation 5. And specialty peripherals such as officially licensed racing wheels, arcade sticks, and flight sticks will work with PS5 games and supported PS4 games. So if anyone's got your Microsoft Flight, or I guess Microsoft Flight Sim isn't on the PS4, just kidding. What else would you use flight sticks for? What do you use flight sticks for on the PS4?
I think Ace Combat. The Ace Combat games, you can play that, and I think there may be a couple other flying games that you can use the flight sticks for. Yeah. Well, there's also the Platinum and Gold wireless headsets, as well as third-party headsets that connect via a USB port and audio jack. These will also work on the PlayStation 5, as the Headset Companion app is not compatible with the PS5.
The DualShock 4 wireless controller and PlayStation officially licensed third-party gamepad controllers will work with supported PS4 games.
And both the PS Move motion controllers and the PlayStation VR aim controller will work with supported PSVR games on the PlayStation 5.
But there is a note that not all PlayStation officially licensed or third-party peripherals and accessories may work on the PlayStation 5. Make sure you check, with the manufacturer to always confirm, whether something's going to work on the PS5 before you buy something and it doesn't work and it's already opened and you can't return it.
Exactly. Yeah. So then another question was asked, which I think we knew the answer because we knew the name change in this, but some were wondering, does the DualShock 4 work with PlayStation 5 games? And that is a hard no. As this is what Sony said, we believe that PS5 games should take advantage of the new capabilities and features we are bringing to the platform, specifically with the features of the DualSense wireless controller.
So I believe you'll be able to use your DualShock with supported PS4 games on the PS5, and you have to check if those games are supported. But for PS5 games, you must use the new controller. People are also wondering, is the PlayStation camera for PS4 compatible with the PS5? And yes, the PlayStation camera will work for the PS5 for playing supported PSVR games. It will require a PlayStation camera adapter that will be provided at no additional cost to PSVR users, with more details on how to get the adapter announced at a later date.
And another question that was addressed was, when will we get more details regarding what's going on? And there is a story coming up later, so we will fill you in on what is continuing to happen with the PlayStation State of Play. But before we get into there is a topic that kind of resonates with a previous one of what's going on within the gaming industry, as the next topic of conversation relates solely to the Take-Two's commentary on the next-gen price hike.
So Take-Two Interactive has said it would price NBA 2K21 on next-generation consoles at $70, $10 more than its current generation counterpart.
And Ubisoft came out and said that at least for its upcoming holiday titles, the next-gen releases will remain the same price as current-gen releases.
Speaking ahead of the company's Q1 earnings release today, we looked at an interview from CEO Strauss Zelnick about the price increase and whether he felt Ubisoft not raising its prices, at least not right away, would present a challenge for Take-Two in getting consumers on board with the extra cost.
And this is what Zelnick had to say. He said, there hasn't been a price increase for frontline titles for a really long time, despite the fact that it costs a great deal more to make those titles. Zelnick goes on to say, and we think that with the value that we offer consumers and the kind of experience you can only really have on these next-gen consoles, that the price is justified. But it's easy to say that when you're delivering extraordinary quality, and that's what our company prides itself on doing.
He was pressed on the matter of Ubisoft and asked whether he felt it was necessary for the rest of AAA publishing the rest of the AAA publishing industry to be on board for consumers to accept a price hike. And chat is already saying, "No, I don't know if I do accept this price hike."
Yeah, exactly. As this is one thing that he even went on to say more on was, we speak for ourselves. Obviously, we don't speak for the industry, and the industry naturally does not coordinate on these matters, to say the very least. The pricing has to reflect the quality of the experience, and we aim to provide the best experiences in the business. And from our point of view, it's an extremely modest price change, given that the prices haven't changed for a long time.
Now I'm just thinking of those Blizzard employees, and this is not a modest price if you're going to be skipping meals and drinking free coffee,
Nope.
So you don't have to pay for lunch. Games industry asked Zelnick more broadly if he felt that next generation console adoption might struggle during the economic recession brought about by COVID-19.
And this is, again, what was continued to be spoken, which is, it's very hard to call it. And historically, we've never tried to. Zelnick said, we make our titles available on the best platforms that are out there. We expect great things from these consoles. We, of course, are going to be supportive. And we've already said that we have the NBA 2K21 coming for the new generation, and that we have Grand Theft Auto 5 coming in the fiscal 2022 for next-gen consoles. We haven't made any other announcements.
So CEO Strauss Zelnick also confirmed that they would be deciding and announcing the pricing of next-gen software on a title-by-title basis, implying that not all generation games would necessarily get the $10 price hike. I love Kane's comment. Then I guess for this price hike, their employees are going to be rolling in cash, right?
You would think so, or hope so, if that's going to be the case.
So.
I mean, we're already talking an industry that does very well with microtransactions outside of the payment that you put down for the game. I'm a little confused on the price hike, specifically because they're going to price hike and continue to do the microtransactions.
Yeah, good point.
And we know that the money they make off of microtransactions are hand over fist. Not just a cherry on top, but a whole new cake on top of the previous cake. That's what microtransactions offer in terms of the money that they're making. So this choice just befuddles me.
Right, with microtransactions, like oftentimes gamers spend more on the microtransactions than the cost of the game and continue to spend money on that. I know multiple people that have spent thousands of dollars, like $2,000 to $4,000 on League of Legends, which is a free game. Like with microtransactions, you can get a lot of money. You get a ton of money. I understand that the price of making games has gone up, at least with these AAA titles that are being made right now. We reported a few weeks ago how they've gone up by like 200 to 300%, the cost of these games. But for consumers, the purchasing power hasn't gone up, and I'm already struggling to buy $60 games personally. Like, there's so many games I would love to have on my Switch, Mario Kart, for example, and I just can't hit the buy button because it's a $60 game, and I'm like, $60 for Mario Kart? I don't know if I could do it. And if games are going to be priced at $70, I'm even more like, I have to set up like a Twitch dono goal for this. Like, I've got to set something aside for this. It's really a commitment. It's a lot of money.
It really is. And that's the part where when you talk about like, well, it costs us more. I need to know that this is true, because I have this conflicting thought on, you've stated, not you, Kaisa, but you, the developers, have stated that it's easier to make games with the next gen consoles. The hardware allows the capability of what would be a 100-man team doing the visual graphics of a game like The Division 2 and creating all of those visual aspects. But now you can do it because the AI and the hardware allows you to do it streamlined. How is it now costing more? That's the part for me that I'm like, something's not making sense. You're saying one thing and then saying another, and it's just not, it doesn't add up.
Absolutely. And it makes me wonder if some of these companies, maybe they're not looking at the most efficient way to make these games. If you look at a lot of indie games, one developer can do so much. And it makes me wonder if just because they do have a lot of money, they're like, oh, well, we can be kind of inefficient because we don't need to, stretch every single dollar. Like maybe they're, they have more people on board than they need, or maybe their processes aren't streamlined or efficient or effective enough. Like maybe there's a way they could create these games with less cost, but just haven't tried doing that, or maybe haven't tried enough to do that. Because I agree with the way technology is going. It should be easier now to make games. I also agree with you. There's a bit of a disconnect. We're hearing the cost of making games is going up. We're also hearing that it's easier than ever to create a game. And something doesn't add up here.
Yeah, that's the part that I have where it's like, if we take a look at, the game we've talked about numerous times, Bright Memory Infinite, knowing it's coming from this extremely small team made specifically by one person, and you're just like, okay, now this one individual is delivering a game that looks like and plays like a AAA studio made it. This person's only currently asking for, I think, $20 for the early access on PC. What is it going to cost when it comes out, for Xbox Series X? All I'm left with is, how can we get that experience from an extremely small team compared to a huge AAA studio, and them turning around and going, we're now going to ask you for $10 more plus tax, depending on where you live, up to $15 more than you're already spending. I just don't. I'm still having a tough time, making sense of this.
Me too. And the fact that it's called a modest price hike, I don't think it's that modest. I mean, some people might be like, oh, it's $10. It might be the cost of a sandwich. But oftentimes I'll forego a sandwich to eat food at home because I'm like, I don't want to spend that $10.
Yes.
I don't think this is a modest price hike. And someone in the chat said they don't think it's modest either.
No, it's not modest when you add it all up after it's said and done. If it was a free-to-play game, it would be an entirely different conversation. But knowing these games probably going to drop with their own battle pass systems, or some sort of, you want to get a skin, or you want to get some new legend kind of player, you want to unlock something, you're going to pay a little bit more. It's like, listen, if you just kept the price the same and then offered me those options, you would have gotten your extra $10 from me eventually. But now you're making me give you the extra $10 now, and I may just not fund your games anymore. And that could be a real thing that we see take place.
I like Waffle's point. The only explanation you've seen reading a couple articles that makes sense is games have more content. But a lot of that content comes from paid DLC, so that doesn't add up either.
There is a moment where we have to kind of push back as consumers. If we are unhappy and we don't want this to be the way that the business trend ends up going, we take our... money talks in this industry. So
money talks.
If you move your money to a competitor and go, you know what, I'm not going to pay for NBA 2K21. I'm going to go pay for another basketball game until you guys make a change. That's the part that hopefully could occur here and that they have to respond to. It's just the same for any of these other games that we see that don't do very well. They drop the price pretty quickly. If there's not a lot of people
Rocket
playing.
Arena.
Prime example right there.
Drop the price after like a week of being out, or if it felt like that. $60 is already not modest. We've seen that some of the most successful games are free to play. As I've said, it's possible to make a lot of money off of free to play games. I think this is really more of a pitch. Like, games being more expensive is just even more of a pitch for the Xbox Game Pass and services like that, where maybe you can't spend $60 or $70 now to buy your favorite games, but you can't afford maybe like a $1 to sign up as you did, or I think it's $10 or $15 a month to use the Game Pass to play hundreds of titles. And maybe that's where Xbox was thinking ahead. Maybe they knew that there was going to be this price hike and wanted to get in there. I'm not sure, but it's really looking more and more appealing to me, at least.
And I have to agree with that comment there of sadly there is no other decent basketball game, and it kind of does seem like some of these games that have they've cornered the market on a specific game of basketball or football, and they know that because they are the best in this specific genre, they can do these things. And that's kind of the part of like why we need competitors. We need a competitive marketplace, because then it becomes monopolistic practices. And that's not something we're supposed to be okay with. And in fact, we're supposed to push back against that. So unless someone out there is developing a basketball sim that can top NBA 2K21, then the response has to come from the consumers, specifically targeting Take-Two's comments when they say, we're providing you a bigger experience, so you need to pay us more.
Right. It is because, they do have a monopoly on being, the best basketball game, or, they're the only one with the rights to, creating the simulator. Does strong arm consumers to being, well, you can spend $70 on this game or you don't get to play it next year. Yeah. Which sucks. Like, I understand, that's how, capitalism works, and, that's how business works in this case, but it still sucks. Like, I'm not saying I'm like okay with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the part. It's like, yeah, we're all for it, but I think I've said it once before, and if I haven't, I'll say it now. Unregulated capitalism is greed, and it is greed to the point of someone else's expense. And that's the part where we're kind of seeing this position being taken by Take-Two as they go, we know we can make this decision because who's going to challenge us? And that's where it's like the power in the consumers is still power. Tap into it, use it, push back. Don't let them try to make this the new way. This isn't next gen. You know what I mean? Like, we shouldn't accept this aspect of next gen.
I love how today's show has been a lot of like pro-labor rights, like anti-capitalism.
Exactly.
I don't mean to, shove my liberal leftist values down everyone's throats. I guess it just goes to show how when I say everything is political, like even stuff like this, even buying, NBA 2K21, you're like, well, that doesn't have to do with politics, but we're talking about monopolies, and, they have the exclusive rights to that, and that means there's no competition, and that means the price can go up, et cetera, et cetera. These things do relate to a lot of your day-to-day, whether you want it to or not.
Yep, and you gotta be aware of it when it's happening, and, you fight the machine, but at the same time, it's like, the one thing that I'll say is, we're really just speaking on, like, let's be fair. Let's be fair.
Let's be fair.
And let's not get too greedy. Let's not get too money focused. I mean, we are in the entertainment business. This is show business, but there needs to be a balance, because once an entity or a place of entertainment focuses primarily on the business, at that point, that's when you go, okay, no, shift that back to a balanced business approach, and don't just focus on, well, how do we make our wallets bigger? How do we increase our bank accounts and our stocks?
And this kind of leads us into our next story. There's been a lot of internet outrage. A lot of people are really mad about this, as Marvel's Avengers Spider-Man isn't associated with Insomniac Games' version of the characters. But Marone and I have our own take, so we'll tell you what went down, and then have a good discussion about it.
So there was some confusion over the past 24 hours, as it was announced that Spider-Man is coming to the Marvel's Avengers game in 2021 as an exclusive character on PS4 and PS5. And naturally, given the cross-promotion, there's an expectation that Insomniac Games' iteration of Spider-Man would be the one swinging into the Avengers. However, that's not what's happening.
Over on the PlayStation blog, some initial details on Spider-Man heading to Marvel's Avengers were provided, and the post made sure to specify that it is, quote, our own Crystal Dynamics take on Spider-Man, unquote, that is heading to the game. This means that if you thought Yuri Lowenthal's version of Peter Parker from Insomniac's PS4 title would be the one that would be naturally heading over to Avengers, it turns out you are wrong. Crystal Dynamics didn't provide much other information about what to expect from its own iteration of the character, but they did say that the base design for Spidey is being modeled after Steve Ditko and John Romita's version of the Wallcrawler.
What is somewhat bizarre about this whole situation is that it almost would have made way more sense for Insomniac's take on Spider-Man to be the one to appear in the Avengers, because those who played Spider-Man back when it launched in 2018 are likely aware that the Avengers are mentioned a handful of times throughout the game. And Spidey even himself mentions at one point that they happen to be out on the West Coast during the events of Marvel's Spider-Man, which almost could have lined up for the 8A plot that kickstarts the events of Marvel's Avengers.
The fact that Insomniac's take on the character isn't the one being included also makes the PlayStation exclusivity a bit more bizarre. While it's a good bet that the reason Spider-Man is exclusive to PlayStation is because Sony specifically has made a deal with Marvel Games, the fact that the world's most popular superhero won't be coming to other platforms is still a bit of a bummer. But today's announcement has surely convinced more people to pick up the game on a PlayStation platform.
And we know that Marvel's Avengers is set to launch next month on September 4th. It is right there. And it will initially come to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and Stadia. And Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 installments will be arriving when the next-gen consoles release.
That just reminded me that there's also some state in the U.S. that the first day you can mail in your ballot, I think, is September 4th as well, which is coming up really soon. I wonder what chat thinks about this. I am in the boat of it would be cool if it were the same Spider-Man, but I didn't necessarily expect it. Marvel's Avengers, seems to be kind of its own game. It doesn't feel like I have to have super closely followed, all the Marvel movies and have seen Endgame in order to enjoy, the new Marvel's Avengers that's coming out. So I personally don't have a, big stake in wanting it to be the same Spider-Man. What do you think, Varone?
I am in the space of had it been awesome, great. Though it's not awesome, great. Like, comic books have time and time again shown us that there are different iterations of Spider-Man, and we're okay with that. The fact that we expected it to carry over should have been the surprise, here's this information, oh wow, didn't expect that. Because I expected that Crystal Dynamics would be doing its own take on all these characters, and that these characters wouldn't be specifically related, because I'm just used to that as someone who's a fan of the comic books. So this is where I'm actually kind of excited, because we know we're about to get the Miles Morales Spider-Man story with the PlayStation 5 and get that edition. And then what's Crystal Dynamics going to do with their Spider-Man story? How is that going to play out? I think it's going to be a great time for us as fans of that character to get to experience two different journeys of this, same superhero, but just see what these storytellers do that is different and makes it still a fun experience to play as Spider-Man.
I think so too. I'm wondering, I think some fans are a little bit upset or salty because Avengers is, for Xbox One, Google Stadia, PC, I believe, in addition to being on PlayStation. So people are like, well, I like Spider-Man, but I have to buy like a PS5 in order to play this game. I don't think it's going to push consoles necessarily. I think it's just like a cool perk. I guess this goes to show why it's good for Sony to hang on to the Spider-Man IP and not just, sell it away or have it be part of just Marvel as a whole, because they're still making a lot of money off of Spider-Man because Spider-Man is just so cool. But I could see how fans would be salty about this, but I'm also I don't know. For me, not having Spider-Man in my Avengers game isn't make or break, because if I really want to play Spider-Man, I'm going to play Miles Morales. I'm going to have a PlayStation anyway.
And is it okay that you're going to get Spider-Man? It's just not going to be that iteration. You know, for me, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. It's just that whole moment of sitting there paying attention to, what they're saying and go, there's a point to be made of Xbox owners, PC owners, the people who didn't get to play the Marvel Spider-Man for PlayStation back in 2018. They would have no idea how to understand the character in Marvel's Avengers from Crystal Dynamics crossed over. But if you give them a fresh take on Spider-Man, they understand Spider-Man, and it's a new story for them to begin, along with us, who are also going to jump over from playing the previous one to the new one in Crystal Dynamics' version.
Right. And as you said, there's so many iterations of Spider-Man. And I think that's also what's cool about Spider-Man. I mean, in the Spider-Verse, one of a lot of people's favorite scenes were when all the different dimensional, Spider-Man came out. And it was like the exciting thing is that there isn't just one Spider-Man, it's cool to see, so many different iterations. I hope the Spider-Man, in Marvel's Avengers is going to be super cool. I have full trust and full faith that he will be.
Thank you so much, Kai, for the tip. Really appreciate that.
Thank you so
much. And thank you,
really
James, for hosting us. We appreciate you guys. Thank you, DGM
thank
fam.
You.
A real fan.
The real fam. I don't know. I'm pretty lukewarm on this announcement, but Twitter has been tweeting up a storm.
Well, we do happen to live in a time where when you've got stuff maybe not occupying your time. You find stuff to occupy your time, and maybe you're a little upset that this isn't the case, and you're taken to the Twitter keyboard of 150 characters and making yourself known, which it makes sense. At the same time, let's just take a moment, look back at the journey of superheroes, and I think the journey of superheroes in general is not every iteration of Wolverine, Batman, Superman, the Fantastic Four, Miss Marvel, all of them have not always been from the same character's perspective. Mm-hmm. And we should just take that and transition it into our games.
Absolutely. But we've got some Modern Warfare Season 5 news for you, as well as a gameplay trailer was released to hype people for August 5th.
So coming up tomorrow is the Season 5 of Warzone. I think a lot of individuals are hyped. I am to finally see a new map and see all this stuff. Are they going to address the cheating? What are they actually going to do when it comes to this? We're going to watch the trailer. We're going to break it down, and we're also going to talk about the size, because this has always been the question of everyone when it comes to this game is how much more of my hard drive just becomes Call of Duty Warzone.
Right. How much more do I have to download? Do I have to delete any games in order to run this update? Do I have to start updating as soon as possible because it's going to take like hours and hours and hours to actually get done? I hope that it's not going to be too bad, because a lot of players have already kind of, uninstalled Warzone even because it's just been too much. So hopefully Season 5 does bring back a lot of the hype.
So let's check out that trailer.
Is you ready? Ready? You say you ready? Whole squad ready?
Alert to Rose. You ready to start this fire?
Always. You know that.
That's what I like to hear. How about some fireworks?
Whole squad ready?
Good effect on target, Shadows. Doors open, bring in the birds.
Not on my watch. No way. Bring what you got, I'm going to the top.
Guess who's back?
Trains on the map.
Bring what you got. Bring what you got. I'm going to the top. Is you ready?
It's disarmed. We're good.
Rhyme with them killers and time to see who been willing. I know they get me the clip on them, make sure these people feel it. Gotta get that first shot off before that bullet hit me. Ain't gotta worry about looking back with my squad with me. No.
What are you waiting for? Let's do this.
Get up, let's move.
Before that bullet hit me.
They did a great job with this trailer.
Right?
Whole squad ready. Ready? Is you ready? Are you ready? Ready? Is you ready?
Fighting inside a stadium.
Running hard on the
It's gonna be cool.
Are you ready?
Sniper!
Ready? You say you ready? Whole squad ready. Ready? Is you ready?
Oh, a new skin.
Ready? Is you ready?
Is that like a Midas skin? That looks like a Fortnite skin.
You see hostile intent? You are clear to engage.
Going to the top.
The dance will never be the same.
Damn!
Verdanks, though.
I
They
mean,
really know their audience. That was killer.
they really do. And that is one of those trailers, as you said, when you watch it, you're like, okay, all right, I see what's
Yeah, I'm
going
like,
on
all
here.
right, I see you.
I'm into this.
It felt almost a little bit GTA-ish. Like some of the shots or like the helicopters.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this looks like a GTA game.
Yeah, I did have that moment of when I watched the trailer, I was like, okay, are we going to have vehicles in Warzone? I mean, because that's what I feel like I was taken away from it. The train moving
Right.
around on the
Train's
map.
really cool.
What does that mean for especially the final circle? I am pretty hyped about finally getting to be able to go inside of stadium and
Yeah,
to
people
fight
have been
inside of
asking
stadium.
reasons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but blowing the roof off. I liked I will commend them for the use of a lot of women voice lines in that trailer. I noticed. I was like,
Yes.
oh, very, very cool, very cool. It looks hype. It looks cool. I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna update. My version. I think I have Warzone installed, but I haven't touched it. I'm like, maybe I'm gonna run this update. Maybe I'm gonna try out this new season.
Yeah. So I think if you're a Call of Duty Modern Warfare player, you have no doubt noticed this game eats up a ton of disk space regardless of any platform you play on. And with Season 5 set to roll out tomorrow, some might be worried that it will take a ton more space.
Well, there's some good news and some bad news. Production director at Infinity Ward, Paul Hale, confirmed that the Modern Warfare Season 5 download file would be big, but that it will shrink the overall file size.
And in addition to that, Hale states that reducing the file size for Modern Warfare and Warzone, and yes, to answer that question, Warzone is free to play, it is a priority for the studio. And this is the full statement from Hale.
So he says, hey all, season 5 is coming soon and it's big. With the update, we're including all the new content for the season as well as optimizing our asset packs.
This means that the download will be big, but the overall size of the game will actually shrink on your consoles after you download the patch, even though we're adding a bunch of new content for the season.
It's a priority for us to keep working on reducing the overall size of Modern Warfare and Warzone on your hard drives, but at the same time, also delivering new seasons for everyone to enjoy. We'll continue to work on this and keep pushing space reductions out with future updates.
And I think this is definitely good news, as a single game should not eat up 200 gigs of a hard drive space.
No, not at all. Like, thank you, Infinity Ward, for making this file size smaller, but you kind of should have always been doing that. So it's kind of like thumbs up for doing the bare minimum here.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, to Echo's comment in there, isn't Call of Duty Activision Blizzard? And yes, it is. And it is one of the hardest points for me as a person who's just in a position of, I play this game to play with my friends and I have a great time doing that. There isn't really that space out there that's cross-platform. I can play with my brother who plays on PlayStation. You know, I can play with my friends on Xbox and on PC. It's like, it's that first-person shooter that it's fun to be with friends, but yes, you are stuck with, as we've talked about before, it's an Activision Blizzard space. So when I continue to spend money there, I'm continuing to fund the problem. And what the duality of life is like is right there summed up in that sentence.
I wonder if any like Warzone creators are going to be saying anything about Blizzard, because I think it's also like big if there's like a big, you know, there's a big Modern Warfare influencer to speak out against Blizzard. I think that says a lot, you know, even if they do play the game, you know, using that platform to kind of, you know, put in some checks there. I think might be helpful. But I don't know. So a lot of content creators like to stay out of that kind of stuff.
They do. Some have been vocal about the hacking and the cheating that's taking place in the game.
Really?
Super prevalent, and some have been like, oh, I'm going to quit, but they keep playing. So that's the part where it's like, oh, I'm going to stop playing, but then they keep on doing it. But then there's also like, there's cool additions coming that people like keep wanting to dive into. Like they're releasing 2 new weapons, these locations. They're supposedly, I guess, bringing back the bunkers. There's so much to the gameplay that I think they continue to add that keeps people coming. But at the same time, there's a lot of the community who's like, so is this update also coming out with the anti-cheat software that we've been waiting for on PC?
I am going to say probably not, is my guess. I don't think anything substantial or significant is going to be done about cheaters. It would be kind of cool if in the trailer they were like, and we banned 1 million cheaters. I feel like that would be a wham moment.
Yeah, that's
like,
hilarious.
Confetti poppers or whatever, I think would be kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's going to be any updates on the cheaters. I think people are probably just going to be angry about it or just accept that if you play Warzone, you know, you're going to come across cheaters, which, you know, is not that great.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just being a real pessimist over here.
Well, you're also just being a realist with the current state of the game and what's going on in the game. I will say I experience them every game that I play, and it is unfortunate. It is the one thing that they have wanted to change about this game, but it's also supposedly the Season 5 update and reveal and everything that's coming with it is rumored to be leading us towards the reveal of the next Call of Duty title. And we can't comment on that, obviously, until the update drops and people start digging and finding and discovering stuff. But we should actually start getting some information regarding Call of Duty Cold War, which we know it to be titled through the rumor of that Doritos bag information. So
the Doritos leak.
Yeah, the Doritos leak. No.
The infamous Doritos leak. Yeah, so when this does drop, you know, we'll probably like be coming back to you with more updates about, you know, what exactly has changed. Do people like it? You know, what's everyone's first impressions? And should you get back into playing Warzone if you've uninstalled it or have taken a break, you know, with this new season?
Now you can get it with it not basically holding your hard drive hostage to every bit of gigabyte space that you have.
Give me more gigabytes.
But I will say that I was going to say, there's the gun mug. I was going to say that our last story, this will be the last story for us today on the DGN hour, but this is one that's really cool as we have a release date regarding xCloud.
So Microsoft recently announced its Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription will begin including xCloud streaming integration. And now the company has given more details, including a release date and some of the lineup we can expect. You'll be able to stream onto your Android devices starting September 15th, and iOS support won't be available right at launch.
So an Xbox Wire post from corporate VP Kareem Chaudhry states that the Game Pass Ultimate members will get streaming access to more than 100 games. And the company hasn't announced a full list, but has shared more than 30 of the games that will compose the initial streaming lineup. Those including big names like Gears 5, Halo the Master Chief Collection, and the recently launched Grounded.
So this is being called a beta launch across 22 countries to ensure stability as it scales up from there. Those markets include several countries in North America and Europe, as well as South Korea. You can check out the list of supported markets if you look it up, if you're interested, in seeing if your country will be supported.
That's right, and we will talk about a few of those. As noted above, iOS devices will not be supported when xCloud first launches for Game Pass users. It's unclear when that might debut, although iOS xCloud testing did begin earlier this year.
To play Game Pass titles on your mobile device, you'll need to download the Xbox Game Pass app from the appropriate Android store when it launches on September 15th. In addition, Microsoft announced partnerships with Razer, PowerA, 8-Bit Dough, and Nacon to create new accessories like phone clips and split-apart controllers. You'll also be able to play with your existing Xbox One and PS4 controllers.
And these are just some of the titles as we were taking a look at the list that stood out to us. I think one that is pretty big for a lot of individuals who love these types of games is Ark Survival Evolved will be one of the xCloud Game Pass streaming games.
So there's a whole big list. Should I go through?
Some that stand out. Destiny 2, I think we expected as well for Forza Horizon 4.
Halo 5, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, Minecraft Dungeons, The Outer Worlds, or the Ori games on there, Sea of Thieves.
State of Decay 2. We also have The Bard's Tale and Wasteland, as well as one that I thought was really interesting was Rise, Son of Rome.
I think it's cool that some of these games on here, or at least one, maybe I'm just thinking of The Outer Worlds, is on the Switch. So maybe if you want to play The Outer Worlds on the go, you could just play it on your phone and maybe it'll be higher quality than it is on the Switch. Who knows? Because there was a bit of a graphics downgrade. I wonder how well this is going to work. So some of the Xbox Game Pass xCloud supported markets include, just to name some countries here, the UK, Sweden, South Korea, Switzerland, Norway, Poland, Italy, Ireland, France, Finland, Denmark, the Czech Republic, Canada, Belgium, and Austria.
Yes, and Portugal, Spain, as well as Germany, as well as Belgium. I mean, they are covering a lot of markets here initially. So I think that's something that should be a very strong start for them jumping into this space. And obviously the feature of what it's going to be for Game Pass users. We also know the kind of rumor surrounding Xbox right now and Microsoft is that eventually that Games Pass is going to become free. And that's just going to be a part of the service you get when you use the Xbox service. So that's a really interesting, I think everything that's happening here is very forward thinking in them putting a lot of investment in the Games Pass.
It is, and we'll have to wait until September to see if it's going to be popular, if gamers are actually going to be using this, because me and a lot of gamers don't really have the need for cloud gaming or don't really understand, what extra value it might bring that I, don't have already from just playing on my PC or someone playing on their console. I wonder how popular it's going to be. I kind of hope it's going to be successful.
Yeah, I would love to see this be, one of those moments that this is a strong push for Xbox to continue to do well and to thrive and it to be in this specific market, and they find a way to, create new avenues for other places that might want to offer a Games Pass type service, figure out how to make this cloud gaming possible, make it good and effective, and then eventually see where it can lead us to in terms of what do we get to experience as gamers when that becomes, a more commonplace amongst the gaming industry.
And I wonder how this is like how data and like 5G or whatever is going to affect this in some countries, because in the US a lot of people have like data caps on their phones. You can't really use a lot of data. It's really expensive. Or even if you buy unlimited data, they like slow down your connection after you reach a certain threshold, so you can't really use services like this too much. I wonder if in other countries it's actually going to be more successful because, that's not, common practice.
Very true. And we might even see the rise of internet cafes here in the States, as well as some of the other places where the Wi-Fi and the internet connection they offer you get to just go there and play your games and not have to worry about being limited. It also creates a space once we're, of course, vaccinated and be able to be around each other and so no longer have to social distance or be worried, that it might create the new wave of like the arcade experience, the modern arcade experience.
That's true. Oh, now I want to go to an internet cafe.
Yeah, those are very popular in other parts of the world, especially ones where their internet infrastructure is like beast compared to the States' internet infrastructure.
Our embarrassing internet infrastructure here.
Oh my God.
But to tease some stories for tomorrow, we'll be touching on the new PlayStation State of Play that's going to be coming this Thursday, and GTA 5 news, and that it's sold even better after its free Epic Store giveaway. Yeah,
so someone was in there talking about, I thought you guys would be talking about some like VR and controllers. Actually, that State of Play is supposedly focusing more on PSVR games as well as the current PlayStation 4 games coming out. So definitely tune in tomorrow as we jump into those stories and talk about that. But it does bring us to the end of the Daily Gaming News Hour for this wonderful Tuesday. Thank you so much, DGN fam, for being in here and adding amazing comments to this whole hour of gaming news.
Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we'll be posting our VODs. We'll be showing some reruns today. If you missed this episode. And last Friday's episode, we're also going to be starting up our Twitter. So we'll be posting, some of the news on Twitter and also have some of this in text format, for you to read up if you missed anything or if you prefer, some of that over a video format.
And thank you so much for everyone who's liking, subscribing, donating, and helping us grow our followers and the DGN family as we continue to bring the latest in the gaming news. Please don't forget, if you like us while you're watching us live and you go to check our VODs, please like and subscribe to us there. But also remember, we are live Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The only time we're not live is if something comes up and we've got to take the day off and do some reruns. But we are mostly live from Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Thankfully, Marrone and I are working our way up to more success in the acting world, so it's good when we get jobs.
Exactly.
But it does mean we do have to take a day off from this.
Sometimes it does. We appreciate you all, and for Daily Gaming News, I am Marrone.
I am Kaisa. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you all tomorrow.
See you next time, everybody.
Bye.